we'd like to introduce Ruslan Kostetsky, who's representing, he's the deputy chairman of the executive board of the Ukrainian Association of Fintech and Innovation Companies. Ruslan, we really are here to support and look forward to hearing your messages. And I guess at this time, I'd just like to pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, and CFA team. Also, Ukrainian Embassy in Canada for this opportunity to communicate with the partners and the audience in Canada. My name is Ruslan. I'm working for Ukrainian Fintech Association already 5 years, and it's the youngest business association in Ukraine as for now. I was listening to today's sessions, and it's very similar to what we did till the 24th of February last year. We also deal with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other fintech interesting topics. But on 24th of February 2029, I walked with my family from rocket attacks in Kyiv. It's the capital of Ukraine, the European country, and we couldn't imagine that in 21st century we can face such a situation in the world, because think about any threats. As it was told today, the financial system and cooperation can be based only on trust, and we are building this trust for years among people, companies, startups, etc. And from the day of war started and Russian aggression started in Ukraine, we had very new challenges for business, for the market, and for people. During first months, like 1-2 months, about 8 million people left Ukraine for Europe, for other countries, escaping war threats. And it was fantastic experience because fintechs didn't see their audience, their clients, customers were already not in Ukraine. The only good business was that almost all of people had credit cards, banking cards, and they could use their money abroad, not only in Ukraine, because some people left houses just with iPhone or smartphone, and they had no papers like passport or other papers. And it was another challenge that people were escaping from very hot regions where war started, and nobody could even imagine what they should do in this situation. Another case was that startups, fintechs, insurtechs, whatever companies we call fintechs, they appeared in situation that make their business because they were already without their customers, but they had their workers, employees, and also they had to relocate these teams somewhere in safe areas in Ukraine or even abroad in European countries. But comparing to the ITC sector, where outsourcing companies, IT companies were developing their products for foreign markets, and all processes were adjusted, like sales, marketing, operations, production. Fintech companies who were oriented for Ukrainian market, they were not ready for such changes, and a lot of businesses were oriented just for internal market. These businesses stopped, like microcrediting, online microcrediting, some credits for small and medium enterprises in Ukraine online, they also stopped. And in this situation, business was frozen. Startups, fintechs started to look what they can do. And for us as Fintech Association, we also started to look around what we can do in this situation. The first challenge we had, it was to find people in fintech companies who were to military service, in the first days of the war and started fighting for independence of Ukraine. And we started to look facilities, some opportunities, how to help them, how to get some equipment for them, because in the first days it was impossible to equip everyone who was taken to military service. And we did a job for many people who needed some assistance. And as everywhere, and in this edition, we used the charity-based crowdfunding. We started to make campaigns to collect money to help people who needed this stuff, and it was very successful during like the second months of the war. And then state already received some supporting equipment, partners from Europe, from Canada, from United States, and this stuff was already equipped. People were equipped with what they needed. After the first shock, and the system was hit with the not ready contingency plans for this situation. Not all were ready for this. We started to look what we can do also for companies which stayed in Ukraine, and it appeared that the second challenge was that cybersecurity was also hit by Russians, and many cyber attacks were performed not only for state authorities, but also for financial companies, banks, fintechs who were engaged in payments, for example. And it was like wave under wave, the third wave, fourth, 15th, and people were like trying to keep their business alive because they knew that after these waves, they will come back and try to work as normal. A lot of companies came to us as association just to get some networking, to find cybersecurity experts, specialist companies, and we were looking for these opportunities. After the cyber side was back a bit, we also started to help companies which needed support in communications with National Bank of Ukraine, because in Ukraine it was a law that you need to keep data inside Ukraine. And the first step was to put data in clouds, and the second step was to find clouds outside Ukraine, because infrastructure was hit by rocket attacks, and you didn't know where this rocket will be next hour or next day, and it was day by day, and a lot of cities, a lot of infrastructure were damaged. So Ukrainian fintechs went to clouds, banks went to clouds, and they went to foreign clouds. After this, we had this orientation of products that companies who were internally oriented in Ukraine, they started to find partners abroad in Europe, in other countries. They started to scale their business products to new markets. And as we saw before, it was not easy to scale your product from Ukraine to international markets, but the war made the situation like, if you want to stay in business, you need to make your business very quickly. You need to go in a foreign market like in a month, in a two, and your product should be adjusted and scaled to this market. A lot of Ukrainian fintechs were alive, and they succeeded in doing this business abroad with the foreign markets. We are building right now with the support of partners, modern army. We are receiving modern equipment, are training our military forces, but we also see that after the war, with our victory, we will need not only modern army, but we also will need a modern financial infrastructure. And this infrastructure should be created right now. And maybe after the war, it will be speeded up. National Bank of Ukraine during the last year speeded up the legislation connected with open banking API, and we have already almost adopted the concept of open banking. It's very important for us because all fintechs are looking when it will be launched, and under the current situation, the open banking in Ukraine should be launched in 2025, in 2 years. Also, that rebuilding for Ukraine is very positive in this situation. We have a momentum when from zero, we can, from scratch, we can rebuild the country, and the country could be rebuilt with technologies, with the modern technologies and with the new instruments for financial market, for technology market. What we can take the best from around the world right now and implement in Ukraine. And it will not take like 10 or 15 years. We can do it in a few years only, using our partners, our experience and international support. Another topic is the talents we have in Ukraine. A lot of students, pupils left Ukraine with their families. But before this, before the war, we also had the situation with COVID-19, and it was connected that a lot of universities were working in distance mode, and students didn't went to the universities, but we had universities. With the beginning of the war, a lot of universities were damaged, especially in the areas of active military fightings. But not only in these areas. Like in Kiev, it's a capital of Ukraine. A lot of universities were damaged. They do not have windows after the rocket attacks, and students cannot go there for studies. And also they can't go for studies because they do not have safe areas to escape during the rocket attack. And all they are studying in distance mode also. So we have like generation which during the last 3 years didn't went physically to universities, and they are learning and studying in distance mode. We are trying in FinTech Association to create some connections, networking, and we are dealing with such a project. We launched this a few years ago, which is called FinTech Laboratories, where we try to communicate with IT students, with students teaching, learning financial studies, just to tell them about FinTech, about opportunities, about creation of startups, and possibilities to make their own business, not only in Ukraine, but also scaling it abroad. UEFIC as association is a great opportunity for international companies, international startups to enter Ukraine. We see rebuilding the process after the war as great and big opportunities for international companies who want and will invest in Ukraine, who will rebuild the infrastructure of Ukraine, and with these companies will come also fintechs. We invite companies who are ready to make hypotheses and support this hypothesis with some practical cases to communicate with association if you want to come to Ukrainian market. Ukraine is 42 million people residing in the country, and we hope that a lot of people who left Ukraine will come back after the war. It's very important for us, and we think that it will be a great renovation of the country. Today we talked a lot in sessions about zero carbon initiatives, about carbon business, and before the war we also talked in Ukraine with the international banks who wanted to launch experience and projects with zero carbon opportunities in financial instruments and financing agro sector. In 2021, Ukraine adopted legislation allowing to sell and buy land by Ukrainian citizens, and we had a good push for agribusiness. Unfortunately, right now, agribusiness is a bit heated. The agro fields are with mines, and it will take years maybe to demine explosive from the fields. And then probably in these areas, we will return to carbon requirements. But the other part of the country is open to investments, to new technologies, to new ideas. And your experience, which you have in Canada, probably will be a good asset for Ukraine at the time of victory and rebuilding our economy. We also need good cases for crowdfunding, leasing, factoring, because right now we are just adopting these strategies. We have no legislation for crowdfunding, especially we are interested in investment-based crowdfunding, equity-based crowdfunding. Till now, we were using charity-based crowdfunding. We are developing a factoring strategy. National Bank of Ukraine is very active in this process. We are also looking at solutions for online crediting of small and medium business, micro business. We are looking at about from 500,000 to 1 million people can leave military service after the war, and they will need adoption in the society to be an active part of the economy. And the one of instruments is creation of online platforms for involvement of these people to active business opportunities, like receiving credits, making projects on crowdfunding, and making also international connections to scale their opportunities. I would like to thank you, Craig, for this opportunity to give you a very high-level helicopter view, a snapshot of what is being done in Ukraine right now. Thank you for this opportunity to talk, and hope that this connection will last during this year, next years, and we will make good partnerships. Thank you very much.
Ruslan, thanks so much for sharing those critical updates during this time. I think for many viewers, they're compassionate about the situation. Of course, they're aligned and supportive, and we hear those messages. And if we can make an appeal to the NCFA community, which is really grassroots. These are our founders and innovators that are banding together to, they're approaching innovative solutions. But I think that same attitude and approach towards rebuilding and supporting what's happening in the Ukraine across the board is important for the sustainability in the future. I know that the Canadian government has been welcoming as many Ukrainians here in Canada at some capacity. But it goes the other way. You naturally want to rebuild Ukraine to what it once was, and I didn't realize there were 42 million. It's almost a similar size to Canada. We're sitting, depending on the numbers and adding, we'll call it 40 million. So not the smallest country, but not the largest country. And I think this relationship for fintech and innovation, we owe it to ourselves to nurture it, not just this year, but for years to come. So we really appreciate you sharing those updates, and our hearts and thoughts are with you, of course. So thank you, Ruslan Kostetsky at the Ukrainian Association of Fintech and Innovation Companies. So we will be in touch shortly with your association, I know, as well as the embassy of the Ukraine here in Canada. And so thanks again, Ruslan, for I know the time zones were always not the best, but we really appreciate you joining and sharing your key messages. Thank you.
Thank you.